Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRI. AFRI is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. We have a new story, we have a new storyteller. I have the pleasure to welcome you, Clem, to Urbanistica podcast. Hey, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. First time in Sweden, in Helsingborg. My first podcast as well. A bit nervous, but very excited as well. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm happy every time I do a podcast with first time podcast for people, because I promise you it's going to be a great experience. So welcome to Helsingborg. How do you like the city so far?
I only arrived yesterday, so it's very new, but I think it's wonderful to be part of this event, to meet new people, and to also gather with the placemakers.
It's first time we meet after the COVID.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's amazing. I'm very touched to see familiar faces and also people that I only saw through Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
I'm very touched by this.
I can imagine, because also when I talked to Moa, the placemaking leader here from Helsingborg, I told her I only follow people on digitally. And that's when I joined the Placemaking Europe. And now I see them, so I'm very happy. So Clem, you're our storyteller. How would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your passion?
Yeah, I'm Clémentine. I work as a consultant to integrate future users and inhabitants in the process of an urban development. And I'm also a leader in the Placemaking Europe network, working in the Place-led Development Working Group. I'm very passionate about the urban fabric. That has been my guidelines or along my professional experiences. My goal is to make the city with everybody, and first and foremost with the inhabitants, and re-include them in the process.
That's amazing. Tell me more about your background, where you grew up, what did you study, what do you work with also?
I was born in Marseille in the south of France. I moved in Nantes on the west coast of France for my studies. I'm originally from more of an economic background. I did a business school, Master 1 in entrepreneurship. And I did a second master in the political sciences, more on the sustainable urban development. At the end of my academic path, I worked at STIPO for 6 months. And that's how I met the Placemaking Europe network.
Yeah.
And stay involved ever since.
So you moved to the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When was it?
So the beginning of 2020.
Okay.
And
good for you. I mean, at least you were there physically.
Yeah, I was there physically, but in March, COVID hit. So the experience was a bit different, but I was so excited because also for me, there has been always an evolution and a progression in my path around the urban fabric and getting closer to, I don't know how to say that, but some things that I was feeling or perceiving in the city, and then you meet other people that have the same perception. Actually, some of those things that you're doing called placemaking, some other people are doing the same. And this was not a vocabulary used in France, and especially in the place-led development theme. I was very happy to make the link between my more economic or real estate experiences, because I worked for 3 years at a real estate company in the town planning subsidiary. So to link this kind of institutional background, economic background, with also the more bottom-up field kind of experiences and initiatives, and also link the public with the private and the top down and bottom, make those links.
Yeah.
It was important to me.
your passion to city development, place-led development, how did it start? What was like the story?
It started in, I think in middle school. I started being interested in interior design first.
Okay.
And from interior design, it evolved into the architecture and the scale of the building. From the building, when I was in prep school, like preparing for the business school, I evolved to the city scale. So I'm saying, oh yeah, that's the complexity and the stakes linked with the city scale was very interesting to me. And it was funny because when people would ask me, oh, what do you want to do later? People in my school were like, oh, I want to do work in finance or in management. And for me, it's like, I don't care if I do marketing, finance, and management. The theme, the goal is like making better cities and
so interesting.
Everybody. And so from the city scale, I did an internship in a structure which were actually doing placemaking and testing new activities, new way of co-creating the users and inhabitants. So I did that in 2017. That was kind of my first real experience doing something about that. And so I evolved into, okay, so that's not only the city, but that a city with a certain engagement and with a responsibility in the work. Like, so more sustainable, inclusive, like those became also very important to me, important angles. From that, it was the urban project in the real estate developer I was in. And I liked also the ambition, the fun part. Okay, so how can we make a block or a piece of a city that makes you want to live in it? And also it was a moment where we many open calls for a big urban project in metropoles in Paris. And so it was the moment when you have the resources to make something big, fun, where they were very open to new ideas. And I like that. And then I met the STIPO team, Placemaking Europe in Netherlands. And then, oh my gosh.
This is so cool.
This is so cool.
Because you know what, Clem, this is a very interesting thing that you mentioned now. You went to business school. And usually, like when you start a school that's not really like 100% matching with your passion, then you sometimes start to forget about your passion and your dream, and you just like follow the flow and continue, doing a business. It's not wrong that you're doing business, but I mean that some people lose their passion, just because they are not joined the right school, or they didn't have the how to say, the marks from the high school. So I see that it's so beautiful that you joined the business school, but you still like think about cities. How can I link my studies to the cities? And then you made it.
Yeah, for me, it's because of course I had a lot of comments about my business school, or why you're working in this field with this background. And for me, those are useful skills in each project. So you need,
of course,
to like management skills are those that you find in each project. To me, you need the skills, and you can use the skills for something important to you.
I mean, like, maybe now I'm talking in general, but unfortunately, maybe the cost is the main thing that when we talk about projects, at least in the many of the projects that I work with, like the cost of management and the budget is the main thing that show the direction of the project. Of course, you have ambitious dreams and ideas, but in the end, the client have a limited budget, and it's about how you are creative and smart working with the budget. So interesting that how you link together. What did your family say when you told them, like, I want to work cities at the same time you study business?
Oh, well, they always supported me. Doing a business school was my choice, and going to political sciences school as well. And my parents are both teachers. PE teachers in the university for my father and art teacher for my mother. So they were also very open-minded to different kind of work. But also when I entered the business school, I also chose my business school in Nantes because there was a partnership with the architecture school. So I wanted to understand how the architects work to be able to better work with different people that work in the city. Without being myself an architect, I mean.
So did you understand?
Well, unfortunately, I did only one semester because there was a problem with the partnership between the two schools.
Okay.
I think what was surprising for people that would ask me, what do you want to do? Is like, I want to work in this field. but I want to try different angles to this theme. Meaning, I work in an association, I work for a developer, I'm working now in a consulting firm, maybe one day in a public administration or a town planning agency. Like for me, it does not matter, and I'm not closed to trying new things because I do not see it like there's one good way or one way to do it, and there's no bad.
For you, it doesn't matter if you work as a consultant or in the city. For you, it's just you want to do an impact.
Yeah, for me, it does not matter in which position I'm. It's more what I work for.
Yeah. Let's explore together, like, what is place-led development? So what is it about? Explain to me and to our listeners.
Like, to me, place-led development is upscaling placemaking to the city scale, to the area development, like in the size, but also in the impact and in the time frame. Meaning, like, we want the placemaking initiative to last longer and have a bigger positive impact on the city, on people, on the territory. What often happens is that it's temporary, it's activation, it's testing, and in the end, there are the more institutional city makers that come and kind of wash it out, or that do not value what was created as much as they should. And for me, I think we should reintegrate those people and those initiatives in the city-making process, and not only consider them as the temporary fun part. Usually,
many of the placemaking projects disappears, or the initiative disappears after time. And place-led development is about keeping them going on. Is it correct what I understand, or no?
For me, like, it's also how I understand placemaking. It's in the meantime a process, inclusive process of doing something together, working on the city together. But it's also the result of on a space becoming a place. And so I think we have to, of course, define very early on the condition of what's going to be temporary, what's going to be permanent. I think we have to make the city, with all the stakeholders and more the alternative also initiative and the inhabitants, the users, and we have to reintegrate them very early on in the process and not include them or in the in-between phase.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say. And leave the floor in the urban project for new ideas to stay permanently. In some of the projects I'm working on right now, we leave some capable spaces, even in the permits. So when it's supposed to be set in stone, there is a space that is considered capable, and then when we identify who the future inhabitants are, they are the one also thinking what they want to see there and co-creating the project there.
So you leave some space for more organic grow, like more people decide what's there, or like by time, and not controlling everything.
Yeah.
But is it like on the planning or which phase? Is it planning or design?
Yeah.
Maybe like give us projects, with details, please.
Of course, like for which one?
Take all of them.
I mean, for instance, my company, SCOPIC, initiated in Nantes kind of place-led development, but it's not called like this in French.
How do you call it?
Maîtrise d'usage. So it's a name that is complementary to the name for the real estate developer and the more architects, urbanists. And so to recognize also the importance of the contribution of those people that are considered experts in the environment, because we are building the city with a lot of experts, but I think people are the first experts of their environment and the way they live in the city.
Yeah,
it was in the Nantes island, so which is one of the biggest urban renewal in Europe. Like, it's a very large scale project and lasting for many years. One of the real estate developer came to the company to have kind of an insight of or another point of view on the proposal they were gonna propose to the city. Yeah, that's when the company asked, okay, you want to make this very ambitious super block showing the new way of life in Nantes. Nantes Island, which at this point was very much of a brownfield that was there was not that much construction and buildings around, and not that many activities to do either. And so they said, okay, but you want to do that, but why should not we ask the first people concerned, the people that are living there and that are going to live there? And so we designed a method, a strategy, and it was well received by the public administration.
Also, so what is what did you design, or the strategy or the method? What are the steps?
Yeah, well, the background, like we can enter a project like at each stage, but like the best thing to do is like to enter the project at the consultation phase. And till the post delivery of the buildings. So with the project, we got kind of 6 years to test and experiment new uses for the city. For instance, there was a conciergerie. I don't know what the translation in English, but where the idea was to organize workshop debates with the people that were already living here, but also with the people that were going to live here.
How do you know, the people that going to live there? Do you have this target group?
Yeah. Of course, people that are living around are going to be future users, so they are part of those people. If you are making a participative habitat, of course, you know the users, the inhabitants first, but also in the programming of the neighborhood, you have. If it's a mixed program, you can have offices, you can have other businesses, so they are part of the users as well. And of course, most of the future inhabitants, when you start selling the houses or the flats. And that's why this is a crucial moment. And you have to, that's why you have to leave floor for this time, because by then, most of the project is fixed. That's why I was talking about the capable spaces. You need to fix a space that is open to new ideas. For then new inhabitants to contribute and have a say in what's going to happen. And so in this experimentation phase, we had conciergerie and a co-working. The idea was to test models, what the inhabitants liked, what were the expectation. You were sending baskets, organizing parties. The idea was to create a life and a social community before the delivery of the houses.
So there were no houses?
Not yet. At that point, it was only activating the place, doing with.
Can you tell us some of the outcome from what people say? How do they imagine the future? It's interesting for us to also hear from some examples.
You mean in this specific project?
Yeah, from the workshops, you talk with people.
Yeah.
What do they say?
I don't think there is some general answers, because everything is specific to certain territory, certain people also you are targeting. But the workshop were divided in teams about mobility, about food, about how you want to live in your home, what activities you want to do outside with your neighbors, or those themes. And then we collect all the information through the discussion. And then the impact was, if we take the triangle of the placemaking, hardware, software, and hardware, those discussions that they had impact on the form of the project, with new shared spaces. For instance, a terrace on the rooftop for the inhabitants. They created a new an access through a building, to create some porosity in the form.
Okay.
For instance, some building was supposed to be higher and got a bit lower, so something like this. On the software, so we the programming was discussed with the inhabitants, because usually it's part of a public expectation, public administration expectation, that they need to have certain type of activities there. but it's left to the real estate developer to say, oh, I want to bring this company in, or I want to target those kind of people. So here they had a say in what they want to see in the future superblock. And also in the org. So the idea was to start creating a community, start making history before kind of it begins, because there was not that much to do around it. So it was very important that they feel at home and at ease in the neighborhood when they will enter the building. And of course, from this org, the importance of the place is something that we try to advocate in the project, that we need to think about the management of the community. In order for this to work, we need to give space and a place for these people to share a moment, to gather.
Is it possible that you create a community and the feelings of home, even if there is not something physical that attach people, like there's no offices or houses or stores? It's like just...
Well, the tasting phase, that was the role of the conciergerie and the co-working. So people would feel that they belong here, or that they have the space to talk, to meet. The space was very close to the future project because it was in construction at that point. So this space was for them.
Yeah, it is very interesting. So what is the next step after you did the workshops?
So the next step was the integration of the conciergerie model into the superblock, which is now managed both by a structure including someone from the developer, someone from representing the inhabitants, someone representing also the agency that managed this experiment. So it's co-managed and it's open to everyone. So we have given a space and a place for those inhabitants, users in the neighborhood to meet. There was not only a bank or specifically targeted kind of activity in the ground floor.
In the beginning of this episode, we talked about budget, economy. Can you tell us more about this project from that perspective, like the economy and budget?
So what I can say is that this experiment made us design a model for the success of future project like this. And what we design is that we would accompany projects starting from 40 dwellings, from the consultation to the post-delivery, to ensure also that the community is strong and working well and independent in a way. And we also negotiating in each project that is starting 1% of the turnover of the project that should be dedicated to this kind of work, and 1% of the floor area that should be an open space left for future users and inhabitants.
So not programmed?
Not programmed, exactly, yeah. So those are kind of the conditions for the success of those approach and co-creation of the city. And now we have another project where the response was not to use a conciergerie or co-working space as a place to experiment, but we instead, in this 75 square meter on the ground floor, we launched an open call for more social and creative organization to also have access to the city, because in those cities as Nantes that are metropole and also in Nantes Island, like the financial pressure is high and the access to the city is difficult for those organizations that
because it's very expensive.
Yeah, because they cannot pay as much as a international firm to access the building. And it's important that we still maintain the mix, social and mix in the city, and that we include every organization, everyone in the city. So this open call was targeted to make them access those ground floors.
So they will be there for free, or they will pay like a kind of rent, but not that expensive?
So that's where we improved the model. And here, what we negotiated is that for 3 years, the space is free of rent for them to help them start the organization, business. So it also is open to new initiatives. You do not have to run a company for 10 years to be there. And then afterwards, it's capped. The rent is capped. Yeah, so for them to stay, of course, as long as possible and to succeed in their project. And also what we understood is that it's very important also that we accompany those new projects in their development.
But Clem, like how to say, now you're talking about this model. It's good for the let's say for the city diversity, for the business diversity, and also for the social or the organization that they don't need to pay so much money. But like what's in it for the client? I mean, now I'm giving 75 square meters. What will I get back? So how do you? What is in it for me if I give so much space?
Yeah, I think we need in those projects the public support. For instance, in the first project I talked about was disruptive in the way the public administration was making the city. I mean, in the specification bill, they write for the real estate developers, they now make it compulsory for them to integrate the future inhabitants and users in the conception process of the urban project, which was not mandatory before.
Okay.
So this was a big step. And with this, they have to integrate this in the model. So that's one way. One other way, of course, it creates a lot of value actually to do that. And you make the place more attractive. People feel well, and people want to be where the people are. And for them, I think it's also a decrease in the cost when they sell the houses, because they spend maybe less time selling. They do not need to do that much marketing as well. So that's also one way.
Marketing of what?
Of the
building, or?
Yeah, well, when they sell homes, they have a huge budget to market it towards their clients, for the people. And so this costs a lot in the project, the selling of the units. And so by doing those kind of experiments co-creative approach, they actually are gaining money because we make places known, we make them attractive, and people want to be there because they already have a link, they already have a history. They already know people and they feel they belong. So that's one way. And of course, afterwards, if it's a success, they're going to have a bigger return on investment because it's still going to gain value over time. And for an investor, that's also what they are looking for.
If I understand, so that was first from you call it Nantes municipality or Nantes city, that they made it mandatory that you have to involve people and to give a space for people.
It was initiated by the company I work for, SCOPIC. So that was one of their idea.
Yeah.
Even though the municipality also is really involved into the co-creation of public policies. Yeah. But at the scale of an urban project, a super block led by a private developer, this was the first time. Because of course, public administration, they also do this. Yeah. But at this scale, with a private actor leading the operation, this was the first. And so for the urban renewal, the Nantes Island, they made it mandatory.
Okay. Yep. It's very interesting. That's you're making history, right?
Yeah. Well, it's new way of developing the city or working in the urban fabric, and that's what I like.
Because usually, even in the project that I work with, I'm not against the land developers and so on. No, of course not. In the end, they're also like private companies, and some people invest, and they need to have the money returns to their investors. But usually, what they look at is, okay, how much money I can make in the next quarter, you know. And in your story, I see they don't really make money. They don't count it each month or each quarter. So it's interesting model now.
I think we have to see this as not a cost, but an investment. So they will find their economic balance and the value on the long term.
I mean, this is like the long-term thing. It's not really existing in every company. That's
No.
We want on the short because we need to make money as soon as possible.
Yeah, of course. And it has been possible because the people were also engaged and they believed that what we were trying to do was for the better, for the people. Like everyone had an interest. And I think that's important when we are trying to make those experiment projects live, that we think about all the stakeholders and how they can all benefit from it. And this way, the initiative will be lasting longer and to find the balance. And everyone, like from the neighbors, the people, till the urbanist or the real estate developer or the public administration, I think they all will benefit in the end.
If I take the model that you created with your team and place it or give it to another city or a land developer in another city, do you think it's going to work, or no, it works because of people wanted it to work? Like you mentioned, you tell me people were really like ambitious and they want to do this, and then you created the model. So is it people related, or no, it's like it can work everywhere?
I think it's both. And of course, having people motivated and that we are going to push the initiative and support it is crucial. Of course, if people don't want to invest in it, it's going to be very hard because you're always going to fight for something. So sometimes it's not that easy. But I think also, even though there is not a strong will from the very beginning from those actors, we can light these ideas in them, I think, and by showing what has been done elsewhere, by sharing experiences, and of course demonstrating for everyone that we're gonna find our way. It's gonna work. And I mean, I think reflecting on my own experience, working in a real estate developer and being in a consulting agency, association, having an economic background, and also understanding a bit of the political sciences, we have different languages. Bottom-up placemakers and more institutional city makers, they do not speak the same language. But what I want to do, create links between those people and try to be a kind of translator for them. That's the role also of the company. Because I think facing our challenges, whether it be the climate crisis, the social crisis, or a COVID crisis, we need all the resources we can get, either financial or human time, and each and every one has something that is valuable to share.
True.
So that's what I want to do.
Yeah. What was your role in this project? Like, tell us about some, task that you did.
Yeah. So for the first one, about the conciergerie, I was only there for a few months because at that point I was not integrated in the company. I was not working for the company for a long period of time. But I was there for a part of the experiment between the co-working space and the conciergerie, selling food baskets and talking with people, also trying to collect their stories, the perception, the needs, what they wanted to see afterwards, creating events. I mean, creating a life. It was very, very diverse.
So it's not like you're sitting in the office and doing budget calculations stuff.
At that point, it was not really that, even though I, of course, reflected a bit on the model. Is it working? Is it not? Is it balanced? Things like this. But in the meantime, it was also very practical.
Yeah. When you say balance, what do you mean?
Economically, I mean economically.
Like balance, what does it mean? Like,
I mean, like if we do not take the public money, like if we do not have this help from the public administration, does it run itself?
Okay, I understand. So without the money,
is it financially sustainable?
Yeah. Okay, so you're always checking if we don't have this fund from the public, how is it going to be for the client, right?
In this project, so it also has a very innovative approach and experiment. So they also gave some resources, financial resources, for the project. But I think it cannot happen for every project or every city.
Yeah.
So we have to make new models that are also sustainable. Financially.
Yeah. But like this one, because in this project, it was Nantes municipality, part of it, with the economy and also the client, the land developer. Who started the idea first? Like, okay, let's do this kind of joint fund.
You mean financially?
Yeah.
I do not recall exactly like who started this mix, but I guess it was more from the necessity of having money.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So what other tasks you did during this project? You're talking to people, selling, doing budget.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is also in this second project, it's like organizing events that gather people. It's like the workshops also. Like the workshop is where you reflect on what's, for instance, the community. How would you want to be structured? Do you want to become an association?
Okay.
Do you want to have a WhatsApp group with your neighbors? What do you want to do together? So the workshops are more where you reflect and think what is possible and how you want to do things, but also get to the core of why do you want to have a community, or why are we doing what we're doing, things like this. And then the events are a more informal way to gather people and to create that more easily. Kind of a more easy icebreaker between people. There were also field trips to start discovering the new neighborhood, things like this.
It's very interesting project. So we are like in the last section of this episode, and I want to ask you, what should Placemaker stop doing?
It depends on what you mean by placemaker. Is it more at bottom-up placemaking? Is it more top-down?
What's in your mind?
Because for me, everyone can be a placemaker.
True.
I would not say they have to stop doing something. I would more say, if you are talking about someone from a more institutional organization, they have to leave the space, the floor for new ideas to come, and not be afraid that everything is not planned from the very beginning, and note that into the permit, that it's okay if we do not have a project or a business that is gonna come right away, because new ideas will come and they're gonna be co-built with the future users and inhabitants. So I guess not being afraid of not planning everything.
Okay, yeah. So don't plan every single millimeter. Just leave a space for coming ideas. And don't be afraid that there will not be a new idea, right?
Yeah.
There are always,
the
right?
floor for things to emerge.
Yeah.
The awkward part is the natural, the organic.
True.
It's going to come.
Yeah. So do you guarantee? Just kidding.
Usually it comes.
Yeah. So, and what are the skills that placemakers should learn? Let's now, because you focus on this organization. So what skills they should learn?
To me, there was also a project I did in Stipo and for the network. My interest was to give the tools and empower placemakers to assess their value, what they are creating. They're creating something that is valuable, and for not only for them, but for a lot of people. I kind of made a small manual called The Impact of Placemaking and how placemakers can assess their impact. And the idea behind it was to empower placemakers in the meantime to improve their project, to learn. If they can assess it, they can improve it, but mostly to demonstrate that what they are doing is actually creating value.
Yeah.
And then to be able to build the city or build the project with other partners. That could be financial as well. That could be investors.
Yeah.
Because going back to the language stake, some of those people that will bring resources, financial resources, they need this language that involve data, for instance, or economic numbers. It does not need to be always economic, but a scale of improvement, for instance, because the data can be more of a soft data or hard data, quality or quantity, it can be very diverse, but having a proof, a demonstration makes them less risky, maybe, I don't know. It's more tangible.
Yeah. Is it like a handbook or an open source?
It's open source. Yeah, it's on the
homepage
tool page on the Placemaking Europe.
Send me
website.
The link later so we put it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now we have the last two questions, and I have a question for you. Is it fine for you if I make a video meanwhile you're answering?
All right.
That's for the Instagram. So the first question is about you giving me and the listeners 3 takeaway messages. So what are your takeaway messages to us?
I think I would go first with the triangle of placemaking. Like doing the city, you should think about not only the hardware, the building, the physical stuff, the software they uses, but like, I mean, what is left out usually is the hardware part, the management, the lively-city, and that's, I think, what we should include more in the city making process. Second one would be to empower each stakeholders to understand better the stakes of the other stakeholders.
Yeah.
I mean, from the developer or the public administration to understand how it works for a social organization, creative organization that, of course, do not have the same constraints than them, or for a placemaker working on a public space. Oh, okay, I understand that they do not have to be against me there, but they have different constraints, so that everybody can make an effort in understanding how the other person works. And the third one, I guess, would be what I mentioned before, like leaving the space for new things to happen. Not be afraid of that.
And the last question is going to be you asking it to me and to the listener. So what is your question to me and to our listeners?
How do you manage to work with different people from different ecosystems, different backgrounds? Going back to this language issue, but it's also what is beautiful because we are diverse. But it's also, I think, one of the biggest challenges to make something together. It's like, how can we speak the same language even though we come from different backgrounds?
Interesting. Thank you so much for giving your time. I know you are in the 2 days of visit here to Helsingborg, and you have a very busy schedule, but with all this, you manage and you give your time to record the episode. I'm very happy to have you, and hopefully we're going to follow you and hear your stories. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much for having me. It has been wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. You learned something new and also got inspired by the guest. Don't forget to share the episode on your social media and recommend it to people you think they are really interested in this topic. Thank you so much again for giving your valuable time to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.